Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing another hair video and I will be showing you how I do a layered haircut, and this is about medium length hair. I did trim a little bit off her ends and you will see that in the next couple of clips here, but it's basically just how I like to do a super fun layered haircut all over. So with my model here today, I am splitting her down the center because she likes to wear her hair either way. So when you have a client that likes to do that and put their hair this way or that way, depending on the day, I always like to split it down the middle so that way it's nice and even on both sides. So then I am parting off the front of her hair from the top of her head to her ear. I usually like to make this parting a little bit larger because from the ear forward, there's not as much hair as from the ear back. So I like to give my clients as much hair in the front as possible so they're not like missing any hair, you know? So then I am just going to be doing the base haircut, which is just cutting off the length. So I'm starting with a section from the back, and usually in the back section, I like to do just one large parting. I've seen some people do like two where they split it down like the center and then take parts on either side. But I think this is just a little faster and easier for me. So I like to just go in and go right around the ear, like right in the middle of the ear area or the top of the ear, depending on the amount of hair a person has. So then I'm going in and I'm taking off about half of an inch to an inch. Just wanted her ends to be nice and fresh, freshen those up a little bit. She told me that her previous haircut, she had gone somewhere else and they used a razor and she did not like the razor because it pulled at her hair and it made it kind of not so structured. So she wanted me to trim those ends up and make them nice and even. So then I'm taking another really pretty big section just because this is the base cut and it doesn't need to be, you know, super perfect. So when I start to cut the hair, I always like to start with the middle section of hair. I bring it down. I make sure to match it up with whatever I did previously, and then I cut. I've seen some people start on either side, like on the left side or on the right side, and I feel like you could really make a haircut crooked if you do that. So I always like to start in the center and then go to the left and then go to the right and then make sure everything is nice and straight and even. So I am making sure to comb the hair all the way straight down. You don't want to have any like weird clumps or anything of hair. You want to make sure it's all nice and straight. And then I like to go on to my next section. So you can see this is like really easy. This is just cutting the base into the hair. So that way it's all perfectly even when we start to layer. So again, you can see I started there right in the center of her head. And then I moved to the left. And then I am going to do the right. So now that I am finished with the base cut horizontally on the back of her head, I am going to start doing her layers. So for this, I like to split the hair right down the center into a vertical section. You can see I'm combing that out, making sure all the hair is nice and straight. And she does, my model here has a lot of hair, so I had to split that up. But I've done it with some people that have less hair, and I could take all of it in my hands. So I'm taking it, going straight back at a 90-degree angle, and I am just point cutting in into that hair. So then I move up the section to the next part because she does have a ton of hair, so I had to do it in 3. So you can see there I combed it straight back, and that slack on the bottom is because that hair is much shorter, so I'm not holding it as tight, but that's not the hair that I was actually cutting. So then, once I'm done with that middle part, then I'm going to move on to the left side of her head. And I'm taking pretty small sections. I'm not trying to do too much because she does have a lot of hair, like I said earlier. So then I'm going to split that up a little bit, bring that hair straight back, and I'm going to point cut into that and make sure it is evening up with the previously cut hair. So you can see that little bit right there. I just trimmed it right off. When I'm doing layers, I like to point cut because it makes it a little bit softer. It is not going to be as sharp as a straight across, like, jagged line. And when you do a straight across line and not point cut, you could end up with corners. So I like to just point cut all of my layers. So then this is the last section on her left side. So I am clipping up that top half, bringing that back piece all the way straight back, and then trimming off those ends. So once I finish with that top layer, I like to run my hands through the hair, make sure to see that there's no obvious long pieces. So I saw that there was an obvious long piece there. So I brought the hair up at a different angle, a 90, but like the way it's facing, and then I trimmed a little bit off of there, and that really did make a change. So now I am moving on to the right side of her hair, and again you can see that in this angle it's a little bit better to see. So I grab the hair and I pull it straight back, and that's where I'm cutting. And I wanted to keep her layers a little tiny bit longer on the top, so I didn't go directly up as much. I kind of left it out a little bit of an angle, and you'll see it later when I'm doing the top of her head. But here I'm just making sure those ends are nice and even with the rest of the hair. And where she has most hair is like right in the center and back of her head, so I had to do these in 3 sections. So I am just going to continue on to the right side of her hair, combing everything straight out. And I like to go over it a few times with the comb because I need to make sure that all those hairs are nice and straight. Because if you don't comb everything out nice and straight, you'll have like weird long pieces when you're done with the haircut. One tip that I love to use in every one of my haircuts is where I like to pull the hair out, so I comb everything nice and straight, and then once I have everything evened up, I really tighten my grip on the hair, and then I loosen the hair. So I have the hair in my fingers nice and tight so that it doesn't move, and then I could loosen the actual tension on the hair, and then I cut. That is really easy way to save your back and your hands, because if you are always putting tension on the hair, you are putting also a lot of tension on your arms and your elbow. So I always like to do that, and it makes it a lot simpler for the haircut to get done really quickly. So now that the back is basically done, I like to bring her the sides back and trim off those ends, because I don't want her to not have enough hair on her sides. So I like to bring that hair back and over direct it and trim it with the rest of the hair. So once I have that base cut at the bottom end, I do the same thing. I bring down the rest of the hair from the top, and then I just trim any excess pieces that are like super long. And then this is my favorite thing to do with layers. So I take vertical sections, like little by little, and then from that vertical section I do a horizontal section, is what you just saw. So I bring that hair up at a 45-degree angle, and I over direct it to the back of her hair. This is kind of a bad angle because my arm was kind of in the way. But what I'm doing is I'm angling the hair at a 45 back. So it's not going to be at a 90 like the back of her hair was, because I want her front pieces to be a little longer so that she's doesn't feel like she has like no hair around her face. So I'm bringing those pieces all the way back at a 45-degree angle, and then I am just point cutting them. A little bit of a bigger point cut so she has more like texture and wispiness on her ends. So once I get to the very front of her hair, I am really over directing that all the way back and then doing a little tiny bit of a trim on those ends, and that way she has plenty of hair around her face, and it's still nice and layered, but nice and very softly so that it's not like too insane. So you can see all those layers in the bag. It looks really nice. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So like I said, I'm just doing the same exact thing I did on the other side on this side, bringing the hair up at a 45-degree angle, making sure it is even with the back layers, and then trimming that up at a little bit of a deeper point cut so that she has a little bit more wispiness. So I'm going to continue on this side, and then when we get done with this, we'll move on to the next step. So my model wanted to have some bangs, so that is what I am doing. You can see how long her front pieces were. So at first I like to section out and see how much hair she's going to have. I like to clip the rest of the hair back so it is not in my way. So I don't like to do a big, thick, fat bang. I just don't think it is very flattering on anyone. So I like to do a little bit of a smaller fringe. So you can see there, once I had it all sectioned out, I brought it forward, I twisted it a couple of times, and then I cut it straight. Then, and I did leave it a little longer, so I didn't go like super short. So I left it longer, and then I go in and I start to point cut until it is at the length that she wants, which is right around her eyebrows. And I like to point cut again because I don't like straight, sharp lines in a haircut. So then I like to bring the bangs up and just do a little bit of layering in there so they're not so thick and fat at the bottom. And that is it for these bangs. And since she does have a lot of hair, I didn't have to pull too much out like to make her bangs. And that all depends on the person. So if you have a person, a model or a client that has less hair, then you need to pull out more hair for her bangs so they could be like the right amount of bangs. So then once I got done with that, I did do a tiny bit of face framing just so she had a little bit of layers right around her face, but not too much. And then my favorite part of the haircut is the blowout. So I usually like to do a curled blowout, and I did film a few of these clips so you guys could see how I like to do it. So I just start at the root. I make sure that her roots are nice and dry. There's nothing worse than like not completely dried roots and then they like frizz up and it looks awful. So just make sure the hair is completely dry before you actually go in to try to curl the ends with the blow dryer and the round brush. So I'm using a pretty like a smaller medium-sized round brush, and this one is one of my favorites because it has the metal barrel, which once it heats up it acts like a curling iron. So I like to make sure the hair is really super dry, and then I like to roll the hair up and keep it rolled as I put heat on it so it creates that little bit of a wave at the end of her hair. So that's what I like to do with especially with my layered clients, because then you could see all the layers and it looks amazing. So I'm just gonna show you the rest of these little bit of clips on how I like to blow dry, and then I'll show you the completed haircut. So once I completely finished drying her hair, this is the final result. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love doing layered haircuts. They look amazing. And on her hair, we did a little bit of a shorter cut, so you could really see all the layers and that shape and the fullness that it gives to the hair. Definitely looks like you have a ton more hair when you have layers. So I hope you guys enjoyed this hair tutorial. If you did like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!